298 innocent civilians were killed, including 38 Australians.
There were now faces and names to the tragedy. There was a tape that was in the possession of the Russian rebels.
We now have the proof that the Russian Federation is involved in this tragedy and this crime.
Somebody had to be held accountable for what happened.
So you return to your posting in London. What happens in the aftermath?
We started hearing a lot more about the victims. There were now faces and names to the tragedy. I spent some time in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam. Australia had set up an operations base where they were, gathering information. They had AFP there. They had others who were trying to still get into the country to get that evidence, but they were starting to piece together, I guess, a criminal case in the Netherlands, and that was Australia, the Dutch police, and 3 other nations who's had the most victims for the tragedy. But I guess having the names and the faces now, you were starting to see these people in a more real way. You were at the site and you saw things, but now there were names and faces to put to that story. And as the weeks and the months went on, there were now demands for justice. I mean, somebody had to be held accountable for what happened, which at that stage, authorities were still saying crashed, which was ludicrous. And I think eventually they said no, it was clearly shot down. There was enough evidence there to piece together a criminal case as opposed to a crash investigation accident case.
Да мы тоже на самолете. Там что, еще один раз самолет, что ли?
I knew at the time, the first time that I was there, that there was evidence to be gathered, which I couldn't gather at the time. There was a tape. There was a tape that was in the possession of the Russian rebels. They had a tape which they filmed on a Handycam recorder at the time of the shooting. I had seen it over the shoulder of a militia soldier who had it.
Я понял, там держите оцепление, гражданский, не пускайте. Все, давайте, скоро будем. Это гражданский. Оранжевого цвета? Оранжевого, да. Желтый, черный ящик. Давай. Еще черный ящик. Парашютистов выпрыгнуло с этого самолета.
I mean, this thing couldn't be made up. They were literally believing they had shot down a military aircraft and were looking for pilots. And as they walked along, they started to realise this was a commercial airline. And it was these several minutes of this realisation that they were filming, hoping to get the people they shot down, hoping to get the pilots or evidence that it was Ukrainian troops who were parachuted from the plane, when it became very, very obvious very, very quickly in those minutes they'd shot down a passenger plane. Surrounding them was clothes and toys and other personal belongings that clearly were not military.
Малайзия. Иностранцы. Ну да, это... А кто этот коридор там? Гражданский, с***ши. Давай черный ящик. Смотри.
So what did you do with this tape? That's a huge thing that you've just kind of got your hands on.
We had to retrieve it, which by this stage, it was a full-blown war in East Ukraine. But we paid a guy enough money to use his car and to drive us in, which was a terrible decision, but one we still felt strongly about, knowing that there was evidence to be gathered, which we did, and again reported it very quickly to the authorities.
Гражданских убираем всех! По рассыпной лазим, там летчика видели, по рассыпной лазим. Да, давай, смотайся со своими, бегом. Своими это твою. Ну побери, въезжай быстро. А где парасыпной? Давай туда,
It was kind of a weird experience in that we flew back to the Netherlands, and I remember when we landed at Schiphol airport, the captain came on the PA and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, we're welcome to Schiphol, etc., etc. Please remain in your seats. We have an incident, a critical incident. Please do not get up out of your seats. Please remain seated. We will have people boarding the aircraft." And sure enough, these paramilitary guys came in, full vests, the whole works, helmets, everything. It was weird. And spoke to the air hostess at the front who had a manifest and started pointing. We're like, oh God, they've got a criminal suspect here. We had no idea, except until when they came and stood by our chairs and said, please come with us, that we were the people they were there for.
Australia.
But that was the weight that they were giving this this piece of evidence that we had, and they wanted it. And so we had an escort through the airport and drove straight to the police headquarters, which was a remote location where they were doing the investigation, and we handed it over and watched it with them. They gave it some weight because elements, as I said, had come out, little snippets had come out online and all the rest of it, but they had not seen the full extent of the audio and the visual of this handycam recording. So again, it was another little piece that went to The Hague, that went to this war crimes trial, which is still ongoing today. After all these years, it still continues.